evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's board meeting. I have asked Mr. Gordon Cook to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening again, and this is the meeting of the board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. We allow opportunity for public comments later in the agenda. If you would like to address the board, please fill out the white card with the blue border and give it to a staff at the table near the entrance of the boardroom. If you wish to speak to an agenda item, please indicate that on the card, and your name will be called at that portion of the agenda. You will have 3 minutes. And if you are a student, please mark the student, check the student box on the card, and we're asking the students to address the board first tonight. Dr. Watts, are there any changes to the agenda?
President Venkatasalam, members of the board, Ms. Howley, community, a supplemental personnel report has been added to the agenda. Is before you on the dais.
All right, as a reminder, the communication portion is our opportunity to listen for understanding. We will now be commenting. We ask that you be respectful and refrain from using anyone's name, in present or past employees. And also, when you get up to the podium, please state your name, and you will have 3 minutes again. All right. I do want to ask for a motion to approve.
The supplemental agenda?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay.
Ask for a motion to approve the change to the agenda.
I so move. I'll second that.
Are there any discussions or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes. We are up to 2.0, reorganization of the Board of Directors. And I am going to open the discussion per policy 1210. An oral roll call vote of all members of the board is required for the election of board officers. And the majority vote on all members of the board is required for any person to be elected or selected for such positions. So at this time, I'd like to ask for nominations for board president.
I will nominate Maya Venkatasalam for board president.
Is there another nomination? Hearing none, I'd like to ask for a vote on Maya becoming the president. Please only vote for one member, but we only have one member. The vote will be by oral roll call, and a majority is required. So I'd like to call for the vote. Debbie, what is your vote for the president, please?
Yes to Maya.
Ross, what is your vote for president, please?
Yes, for Maya.
Karen, what is your vote for president?
Yes for Maya.
Denise, what is your vote for president?
Yes, for Maya.
Okay, Chair votes Maya Venkatasalam for president of the Board of Directors for 2018 to 19. Next, I'm going to call for nominations for board vice president.
I'd like to nominate Debbie Strauss for board vice president.
All right. I'd like to call for a vote. Debbie, what is your vote for vice president?
Yes.
Ross, what is your vote for vice president?
Yes, for Debbie.
And Denise, what is your vote for vice president?
Yes, for Debbie.
And I also vote for Vice President Debbie Strauss. Oh, and Karen, what is your vote for? Well, you nominated Karen.
Yes for Debbie.
All right. We have voted Debbie Strauss for Vice President, effective July 1st for 2018-19 school year. Now I would like to ask for nominations for legislative representative.
I'd like to nominate Ross Hardy.
All right. Calling for a vote. Debbie, still, what is your vote for legislative representative?
Yes for Ross.
Okay, Ross, what is your vote for legislative?
Why not? Yes.
Karen, what is your vote for legislative representative?
Yes for Ross.
And Denise, what is your vote for legislative representative?
Yes for Ross.
All right, the chair votes for Ross Hardy to be the legislative representative effective July 1st for the 2019 school year. All right, turn it over to Dr. Watts to recognize the board officers.
At this time, I would like to congratulate Maya Vengadaslam, President Maya Vengadaslam, beginning July 1. And thank you for your term of service. And to our board vice president, Debbie Strauss, congratulations for your continued service, effective July 1 for 18-19. Thank you for your service. And to Director Ross Hardy for your election to legislative liaison representative. Thank you for your continued service in 18-19. And to our entire school board, thank you for the work that is left to be done and that we will continue to work as a board superintendent governance team. We thank you, and please help me congratulate all our school board directors and those elected to office. Thank you.
All right. We are moving on to 3.0 presentations, and we will start with the quarterly student discipline report with Israel Vela, Chief School Operations and Academic Support Officer, and Randy Heath, Executive Director, Student and Family Support Services, will be available to answer questions for the board.
Members of the board, President Vengadaslam, Dr. Watts, Ms. Howley. I'd like to again thank you for the opportunity to present today our discipline report. Executive Director Randy Heath. Recall that we've gone to quarterly reporting. We have data through the month of May, and we look forward to, in our September meeting, coming to you with our trend data for the year. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Randy.
Thank you, President Vengadaslam, members of the board, Dr. Watts, Ms. Howley. As Mr. Vela said, this is through the end of May. June is not included in it this time. It will be part of our annual report in the fall. Also, a point to make is that we're in the process right now of our building level staff going through and what's called as, kind of cleaning up the data a little bit. We're looking and seeing if there was any kind of duplicates that were in there, taking those out, looking at things that didn't receive actions and taking those out. And so that is that process that would cause this to change a little bit. These are always preliminary numbers. Once again, we're looking to do a trend overview of the last 3 years as comparison to the same time in the last 2 years. You'll notice here that the numbers around in-school suspensions are even pretty much with where they were last year and down from 2 years ago. We had a slight uptick in our short-term suspensions at this point, but once again, they're pretty much in line with where they were 2 years ago. So it looks, time will tell whether we've kind of hit a mark and maybe last year was a low mark for us, or if this is just an uptick back up again, but something to look at. Long-term suspensions are pretty much where they were 2 years ago, and we have had an increase in the number of emergency expulsions, but this would be a good time to remind people that emergency expulsions are all turned into other types of suspensions. So they can only last for 10 days at the most, and then they are converted either into a short-term or a long-term suspension at that point. This is our slide that shows disproportionality. Just a reminder that the numbers at the top are what the numbers should be if we were perfectly proportional. So we can continue to see that there are some categories in our race, categories that are disproportionate, either more suspensions than we should be seeing or less. This is about the trends that we've been seeing over the years, other than we have seen an uptick in suspensions with our Hispanic Latino students. And it is something that we will need to continue to watch and look at closely. One of the plans that we have in place for this is not a trend over every one of our schools. It is a trend in some of our schools. So when the new ed leads, executive director ed leaders come on board, I will be working with them to identify which schools those are at, and we will be taking a look along with the administration of that school as to why we might be seeing that trend moving upward. We are now looking at the 3 different categories that we look at: the in-school suspensions. You can see the trend over time on that. The short-term suspensions by level and by race. And once again, another view of the short-term suspensions, because we want to see, are they mainly the 1 to 3 days, or are they the longer ones there? Because it's short-term suspension can go anywhere from 1 to 10 days. Long-term suspension rate, we continue to be not many. Just a reminder, it's a good time to remind that 5 years ago, we were sitting at the end of the year with, wrote down this number, like 260, let's see. We were up there. We had a large number of, it was lower like 260, and now we're down more around the 30 range. So we have really cut down on our long-term suspensions, which is a good thing. These are the other categories we monitor beyond race. The gender continues to be disproportionate toward males being suspended at a much higher rate than females. This is not different from the state as a whole and the nation as a whole. We are right on line with proportionality with our ELL. We are right where we should be. We do not see disproportionality with our ELL students. We do with our special education. Once again, that is a trend that we see both at the state and national level. Doesn't make it good for us to have, it just is in line with that. And the same thing with our free and our reduced lunch rate. We are disproportionate on those students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. The exclusionary discipline categories you can see listed here. We continue to monitor this closely every month. When we see suspensions pop up into areas in categories in which those are by policy and procedure do not call for suspension, that prompts me to make phone calls to principals trying to figure out why a suspension was in place there. Sometimes there was some real aggravating factors that led to it. Things like truancy, we were trying to wipe that off, and hopefully after we've finished cleaning up some of the discipline errors that were out there, we won't see any kind of out-of-school suspensions for truancy issues or any of those lower level things that we've designated as that. This slide is here to make a point that this is duplicated values, meaning a student can show up more than one time in the suspension numbers that we were showing before. So this just gives you an idea that there are some students that are getting multiple suspensions. These are kids that we are throwing lots of supports around and trying to really try to figure out what is going on. Some of these kids do live in deep trauma. There are a lot of things that are going on in their lives that are, beyond some of the things that we can totally address at the school level. So someone who gets multiple suspensions will skew some of this data, especially if it's in a group or like a racial group that we have very small numbers of. One student getting large number of suspensions in there can really throw up the numbers in situations like that. Just want to let you know about some next steps that are coming. Currently, as I said, we are verifying discipline entries. We're removing duplicates, looking to take out things that receive no actions. We're excited to have coming on board next year 3 multi-tiered systems of support coaches that will be able to go out and work alongside with building leaders in really looking at their discipline data and looking for systems issues that may be causing some of these things to be happening. And we are making changes to the discipline policies and procedures to align them more with our multi-tiered systems of support, which is a positive. And then we are identifying community organizations to help step up and help with some of these Tier 2 and Tier 3. A real exciting thing that you'll be hearing more about next year is we were selected by King County in one of the Best Starts for Kids grants for something called SBIRT. SBIRT stands for Screening, Brief Intervention, Refer to Treatment, although we're calling it actually Refer to Supports. SBIRT is a term that comes out of the medical, and that's why it has a treatment piece at the end. But we all agreed as a school setting, supports sound better at the end. But what it will allow us to do at the middle school level, where we are seeing a high number of suspensions, once again, not out of trend from what you see around the state and the nation, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be trying to address it. In 2 grade levels, we see, roughly the same amount of suspensions as you're seeing in the 7 years of elementary school and the 4 years of high school. And so there's obviously issues that we need to help give more supports to our middle schools to help address some of these behaviors. And so the SBIRT grant will allow us to partner with some of our community organizations to provide supports consistently across all of the middle schools to try to address some of these things. And a screening of students will allow us to hopefully identify kids early and give them the supports they need through a brief intervention before things get bigger. And so, like I said, I will be coming back more as we iron out these plans in the fall and sharing with you a little more about what that is actually going to be looking like in our schools. So that is my report, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Randy. So can you tell me what type of supports, because I know sometimes, we always focus on the students with a lot of these issues, and sometimes it is just really, sometimes teachers aren't prepared to support some of those behaviors and have that support in their classroom. So what type of, are we looking at how to give teachers extra support to help possibly, de-escalate or do some of those things in their classroom, and what does that look like?
Yeah, all of that is definitely part of this. The coaching piece that we're bringing on board is a huge part of both helping the staff at schools with what is needed at that school. And one of the why we're going with the coaching model, and that was part of the plan that was developed, is that each school has unique needs, including training needs, including whatever supports that they might need. And so a coaching model allows them to really sit down, work with the school staffs to look at the data that they're getting and looking for systems issues. And if systems issues exist, then around giving extra training to staff or doing other things that might help the systems issue. We need to stop looking at it as, just individual student issues. We really need to look and say, what can we as adults do to change what is happening in the environment? Because that is where we have the most control. We can't necessarily remove them from a traumatic situation in the home necessarily, but we can provide a trauma-informed environment for them to come into to help them be more successful when they're here at school.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, as far as MTSS goes, what if there's a correlation, or can we look at a correlation between where a school's implementation journey is, where they are on the learning curve, as compared to how many discipline referrals they have?
Yeah, I think eventually we will. Right now, remember, we were in year one of implementation, and it takes several years for this to really get firmly in place. And so that is our absolute hope, looking down 3-4 years from now, that we will see that it has made a dramatic impact.
Good, thank you.
So when we're looking at, because we start breaking it down by different groups, and because we're trying to get the root cause of, okay, if we've got the highest out of the last 3 years happening this year, where does that coming from? And you may be able to identify groups, maybe identify schools, things like that. So how are we equitably allocating resources to those schools is really the question. So we look at overall, but how do we, if I look at elementary school short-term out-of-school suspensions for Hispanic Latino students, and they're highest this year than last year and the year before. How do we say, what is the right equitable resources to allocate to those students?
Right. Well, and that's really coming down to an individual look at the data at that particular school, because what is causing something at one school may not be what is causing it at another school. And to try to put a blanket response in there doesn't work. I liken it to the like attendance issue. Kid is tardy to school every day. Universal thing, if we bought each of them an alarm clock, but the real reason that they're late to school is because they have to stay and watch their younger siblings and can't leave for school till an hour left, then that alarm clock is useless to them. It's not the reason why they're being late. So we really have to look at the data at an individual school level, try to make determinations as to, is there a systems issue that is causing this at our school? And if there is, then we need to change the systems issue with the adults at the school.
Thank you.
And I was pleased to hear you say that we are looking at a school level, because I know that's one of the things that popped out to me.
Absolutely.
We've looked at district for a few years, and I know you've done some work outside of that of looking at the school, but we've really got to identify where those are. So I'm hoping that the coaching model and the different things you're bringing in will help us see some decrease in things, because it's really about helping the students. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just curious about the ELL drop, but the Latino increase. So are we looking at any sort of patterns there where their ELLs are Latinos or Latinos not ELL?
Yeah.
What is the...
That's a good question. It takes we'll take a deeper look into the data. I think sometimes people think that the only ELL students we have are Latino students, and the reality is that we actually have quite a bit of ELL students that are not Latino.
So looking at the ELL students who are not Latino, how does that compare to?
Yeah, and we haven't broken the data apart yet on that, but it's definitely something that we plan to be doing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heath.
All right.
All right. Next up, 3.02 is the Quarterly Safety Services Report. And Mr. Israel Velas, Chief School Operations Academic Support Officer, Mr. Tim Kovich, our School Safety Services Supervisor, and Commander Jared Kastner will be available to answer questions for the board.
Thank you very much, members of the board, President Van Gosselin, Dr. Watts, Ms. Howley. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we moved also with our safety service report to quarterly. Supervisor Tim Kovich and Commander Kastner are here today to share some of the trend data that we see through the month of May, and we'll be back again in the fall with a year-long look similar to what Mr. Heath mentioned, so that we begin to look at data across the year and then implement those goals that we need to for the coming year.
Thank you. President Van Gosselin, members of the board, Dr. Watts, Ms. Howley. Again, our report is looking at the last 3 months in data, and we're not touching onto June until we get into the final report, as we start in September and we recap the entire year at that time. Started with some of our highlights that we have done the last few months. We partnered with communications and started a safety campaign. We're doing messaging about lockdowns, modified lockdowns. A lot of recent questions coming from parents, some concerns out of some tragedies across the country. We made some informative videos with Dr. Watts, and then we put out some publications. And then directly we went out to some of our schools and did some hands-on training with staff and students, showing them run, hide, fight video and breaking that down into what that looks like into the classroom and how that applies in that school setting to better clarify a lot of questions again. We continued with a lot of our security enhancements in our schools, working with the ongoing capital projects piece, working with card and camera access there for better enhanced safety. The schools did a great job, again, ongoing drill compliance throughout all of the months. Did a great job meeting all the end of the year calendar pieces they have to do and then fit these in at the same time. Again, those drills are the training for the students that the state is doing, and the schools I'll do a quick plug. They did 100% again for the year, so great job to everyone out in the schools. I really appreciate that. We had our department meetings along with something new. Two of our SROs, Karen Davey and Jana Wilson from Kent Lake, started working with King County Emergency Management, and we are trying to use some of their grant funding to see how we can work with King County, again, improve some of those training, possible videos. And we're looking into making a possible state model when it comes to the type of lockdown type videos and training, and use some of their funds to do that. And they're pretty excited about that, and we're seeing where we can take that. And then wrapping up the educational piece, they did some gift of life and some other presentations with the closing of school, safe driving, paying attention, that no texting while driving piece, and some presentations at some of the schools. Moving into some of the monthly trends, starts again with female, then we go male, and then the same categories we see all looking back at the last 3 months. So in the female categories, they were pretty flat across the board, but as you look from March, April, and May on the very last category in drugs and alcohol, there was a decrease moving in there. Male is in the same category. Some of them were pretty consistent, up and down by 1 or 2. There was a jump in the drugs and alcohol by 5 in there on April, and then we go back down again in March down to 7. So, and then when we look at the all categories, they're pretty close across the board again as we move through. Not a lot of change, just by 1 or 2. As we look at March, April, and May, moving into the trends by race, some of them are pretty equal across, and then we had a few. We had the one spike in Hispanic Latino in April, and then decreasing down as we move across. The annual comparisons, March 2017 to March 2018 this year in our categories reported here. Some decreases all through, just by 1 or 2 again, but we are moving down compared to last year in March. And then we have 1 or 2 categories again moving up. And then as we move into May, we're looking about equal, a little bit up increase in drugs and alcohol, but pretty consistent for each year. Comparisons by race. This is annual, looking at the month of March. The most significant trends we see is a large decrease. African American, we have a drop of almost 10 from 2017 into 18, and Hispanic Latino drops in that month, significant also. April, we then see a flip. Don't have a lot of answers on why that flip is month to month. Looking at some of the data and the incidents specifically, we could not find anything that was matching up where we saw consistent. It was quite random on the contacts that were being made by the officers or the things reported. And then finishing out with May, we have a few increases again and a few decreases. Jumping into the months with incidents, we have a relatively low use of force across the board with our incidents. Several of those in the months were non-students, adults on our campus, or parent incidents that were non-compliant and caused those issues. We had a very low level of student amount, or they were very minor. And then I'm just going to roll to the last highlights. And then our mentoring. Again, continue big push with our officers. They do a great job up there, trying to get to know the students, doing different programs, working with our partners in law enforcement and different types of programming. Again, we highlighted all of our officers in this report. Again, they're doing great jobs at the different levels, middle and high school. Again, some of them are very quick grade connect checks, how you doing today? Are you on time? To some programming that, again, I want to kind of throw out a highlight again. Our officer, Karen Davey, she has quite a list of positives that she's doing. And again, we highlighted her during our safety campaign with many different programs. Reading with Rover program, working with a couple of our schools and some of our administrators out there, opening the door to get them in there to work with some of the kids who don't communicate as well, and that was a great way to open them up. Also worked with some PTA groups, working on some incident planning, working on getting some supplies to schools, and other incident command training pieces for schools, along with there's a ton to say. So, and then in closure, again, the drills, a huge amount of drills being done out there, and the schools do a great job. So, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Questions?
I want to know more about the mention working with OSPI with the school security committee to create state-level SSO, SRO training. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so Karen Davey, Deputy Davey has gone down and worked with Mike Donlin and some other members through OSPI, trying to work on some specific information about SRO definitions, along with school safety, standardized training that can become statewide and through the organization to help get those standards up for all the school districts. And so she's part of the WSSO organization, and hopefully she's going to make president and keep pushing towards this. But she's a great resource. And working with the OSPI, that's a big help for us, because we're trying, again, to get some standardized pieces in there that, again, working with Commander Kasner and some information to get out there to the schools. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah.
I just had one question. So I know during the summer we traditionally do some training with our safety officers. Is there anything that we're doing differently this year based on any of the trends that we've seen, or what types of trainings do you have planned?
Yes, we've been working with, actually Randy Heath has come to us and asked us to be part of a team with administrators. In our first 2 days, I believe it's a full restorative justice type practices, and some other teams at the schools, so that we can all be communicating, working in the same program. All of our safety officers are going to be taking part of that with them. And then we're going to be doing a lot more with a de-escalation. And Chief McCurdy in Covington has opened up the door for some training for us, and some other types of interviewing and different things working with youth. So we're getting a lot of help from the cities, and that's great for us. So.
Great, thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to add, along with the lockdown drills, emergency drills, everything that you do, just observation from graduation for the work that you did. If anything went wrong, we weren't aware. I was there the entire day, and just really tremendous work that you did.
Thank you very much. All the officers, and again, a great shout out to the city, because they put a lot of staff out there to help us and pre-planning for months on that. So they did a great job.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Curtis. All right. Next up, 3.03 is our 2017-18 budget status update for May 2018. And Mr. Ben Rarick, Executive Director of Budget Finance, and Lisa Tyler, for Supervisor of Fiscal Services, will present an update on the current fiscal state of the district.
Good evening. So as we have done pretty much every month this year, you will receive a budget status update. This one reflects data through the month of May. So as she has done every month, Lisa will walk you through that data, and we'll both make ourselves available for questions at the completion of the presentation.
Thank you, Ben. Good evening, President Vengadassalam, members of the board, Dr. Watts, Ms. Howley. So as Ben stated, this report reflects activity through the month of May, preliminary data, although the month of May has officially been closed, and these figures that I'm reporting out tonight are very close to the final. So as in previous presentations, to keep it consistent, I'll be covering revenues, expenditures, review of enrollment as of June, our June enrollment actually, a fund balance review, and then anything that we might want you to be aware of over the next, the remaining 3 months of the year. And then an opportunity for questions at the end. So first off, revenues by source through May. I can say overall, our projections are coming in, again, very similar to previous report outs for each of the previous months. Very consistent. Nothing really has changed to change our projected amounts. I mean, they're changing slightly, but nothing out of the ordinary. We're still on target to definitely end the year with a positive fund balance, and it's in a consistent range of what we've reported out previously. So first slide shows revenue collections by major source. So you can see that those major sources are local taxes, or local revenues, state revenues, federal revenues, and so on. And really, again, nothing out of the ordinary. Last month, we showed a little bit of concern because our property tax collections were down a bit more than what we had expected. Favorably, they tended to, or they bounced back a little bit in May, so we're back on target with where we like to see those levels. Our total collections based on budget, we're at almost 77% of our budget. That doesn't mean a whole lot with revenues because revenues are not collected in a uniform manner throughout the year, but as we'll see with the expenditure side, we're 9 months through the year, so that puts us at about 75% of our budget on either side. So we're on target if you want to look at it that way. Really, the one point that I would like to point out here on the revenues is under federal special purpose revenues, the fact that our collections are significantly lower at this point in the year than the other categories. You will see this percentage come up over the next 3 months, and the reason for that is we have identified certain positions that are currently or throughout the earlier part of the year, we had charged these positions to basic ed. We have identified the positions, and these positions are appropriately able to be charged to federal programs, and they actually historically have been charged to federal programs. So we're making those adjustments, and what that means is that we will be able to claim for reimbursement those expenditures. So, and we have done that so that we can, our reimbursement claims will increase over the next 3 months. So again, this percentage of collections, we'll see more federal revenue reimbursement come through because of that movement. On the expenditure side, again, this is expenditures by major program. And so here's where we're looking at a 75% target, being 9 months throughout the year. You can see we are very close to that, just slightly over 75%, and very comparable to where we were at last year. So let me point out again the expenditures in my compensatory programs slightly down. Again, same issue. We'll be moving expenditures from basic ed to compensatory programs, and so that line item that percentage will increase a bit. Nothing else on the expenditure side is out of the ordinary. Everything is very, I'm going to say, status quo. We're well within our budget, and which will lead us to, again, end the year, right where we want to be in a positive fund balance. This next slide shows expenditures, same figures, but looking at it a little differently. This is expenditures by object. So we're looking at salaries and benefits, and then our MSOC categories. And very similar to previous presentations, our salary and benefits are slightly higher than our 75% target level, but the MSOC categories are significantly down, especially in 3 of my 4 categories. Supplies and materials, you can see 60%. Travel and capital outlay, very much below our target percentage level. Contract services are hanging right in there at the 75% level, so that's a good sign. So again, nothing out of the ordinary. This all looks very good and well within our budget. These next 2 slides compare the month of May from year to year. And so you can see that the first slide is revenue. So we actually are down just a bit in our local tax collections. The other categories are either very similar or this line here would point out our apportionment categorical funding. So we're up in apportionment funding from year to year. And then this large increase just happens to be it's revenue from other agencies and transfers from one fund to the other. So this line item, the reason it's so high is we've got a couple of things. We have more of those other agency grants this year, and also this reflects transfer from the capital projects fund to the general fund for expenditures that are appropriately supported by the capital projects fund. So that transfer occurs from one fund to the other. And then I also calculate from this slide just an average monthly revenue collection. So we're 28.5 last year and 29.8 this year. And then I also project that out. As of May, my projected total expenditures for the year would be $344.9 million. And that's the big picture amount that I use in my year-end projection. So that is revenues. Similar slide for expenditures. Again, May to May from one year to the next. Salaries and benefits are up just slightly over the previous year, which we would expect. Salary costs tend to, well, we wouldn't expect those to go down from one year to the next. But you can see here where our savings have come into play in the MSOC categories. So year to year, we've spent less than we did last year by this 8.6%. So for a total expenditure, our total expenditures from year to year are almost flat, but we're down just by 0.2%, 0.02%. And then similar to my revenue slide, I calculate an average monthly expenditure amount year to year, and then projected out my projected total annual expenditures, again, is what I use for my fund balance projection. Enrollment. Now this is enrollment as of June, so you can see here that we actually hit it pretty close to our projection this year. So if you just look at our K-12 enrollment, not including our other instructional programs, our budget, we budgeted K-12 enrollment at this 25,841, sorry. Current enrollment as of June 1st was 25.4. And then our projected annual average, 25,008, for a difference of 30 FTE. So a little bit better than we've done in previous years. So that is as of June. And so that June's our last reporting month. So this is our annual average. My fund balance projection, as of May, for the month of May, we have a fund balance of $6.2 million. That will project out us to end the year at slightly over $1 million. As I look ahead over the next 3 months of the year, I've already done, got to jump on my June analysis. This number most likely will come in slightly less than $1 million. We're looking at maybe anywhere from 700 to 900,000. If things go as planned. Key to that is our payroll for July, because that can tend to run, definitely runs higher than other months of the year. So once we see what that figure is, that's really key to the rest of the year's expenditures. And then our trend analysis graph, you can see we are right here, we're above last year's line, and I anticipate that we will be out here at August above the line. However, I want to say that the months of June and July, we most likely will dip back into the negative fund balance just because of the timing of our revenues. So just, don't be surprised. We anticipate that. We expect that. That's normal that our fund balance drops down for those 2 months. But, so we will go down and then we'll come back up. So looking ahead over the last few months of the year, nothing really that I feel like I need to share right now other than my projections from here forward incorporate anything that, any cost savings that we have incorporated into the remainder of the year. As anything else comes up, they will be incorporated. So, my projection model is always active. I mean, I could be in there every day, and the numbers will continue to change just, with more and more information. So, and then, as I noted, just be aware that June and July will show negative fund balance and then recover in August to end the year in a positive. And that's it for May. Are there any questions?
Start with Debbie this way.
No, between this and the presentation we had earlier, I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
General questions, specific question on looking at the actual year-to-date, May to May, year-to-date expenditures by object. Yeah. And kind of comparing over time. I mean, most everything has been under, obviously, materials and supplies, contract services, but now contract services is basically even to last year. Do we see that trend continuing, and basically meaning we're going to end at contract services more than last year? And going to go in the last level, where are those contract services increasing that they over prior year?
One of the analysis pieces that I will be providing you is really going to focus on the contract services piece, the 7,000 object code of expenditures. To answer your question specifically, is contract services is one area that it's hard to reduce because those are typically contracts. They're services that are set at a given amount. There's really not much to negotiate. Different than supplies and materials, and we can choose to buy fewer supplies. We can't necessarily choose to pay less for electricity. See what I'm saying? I would say it's expected that contract services is the one line item that we don't see the decrease in because those are considered more fixed costs rather than discretionary. Even though some of them are discretionary, but they're more fixed than tangible supplies. Does that answer it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to mention that the enrollment analysis, just how great it is to see that we're so close. And I thank you for getting the right model in place from years past. And also wanted to mention earlier, you mentioned doing the budget in different methods, and so the program-based budgeting, looking at the CAS and the CLS and the portions of that'll go into those particular programs. That's been long overdue, and that's great, and we're looking forward to seeing that.
Okay, good. Looking forward to providing it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Tyler.
Thank you.
Mr. Wright. Right, we're up to 4.01, resolution number 1543, temporary waiver of implementation of the 24-credit graduation requirement. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve resolution number 1543, temporary waiver of implementation of the 24-credit graduation requirement.
I so move.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Are there any discussions or questions?
I would actually like to hear more information. It looks like Jewel was going to prepare to share information. Dr.
I just
Herman.
assumed that there would be questions, and maybe that was my mistake.
Oh,
So this is something where I just thought you'd have questions about it. We shared as an update in the superintendent's facts about that, but it's, the RCW law was passed in 2014, and at that time, in 2015, Washington State Board of Education opened up the waiver opportunity to districts across the state to allow them the flexibility of figuring that out, because most districts, like Kent, have a 6-period day, 4-year opportunity, 24 credits. And although Kent was that 23 and a half credit, and we've had that expectation for our students for quite some time, the areas that those students were going to take those courses in that would be required under this new Core 24 are different, slightly different than our 23 and a half. And that required some flexibility of thought. 7-period days, 4x4 block schedules, and everything in between. Currently 77 districts, a lot of the major, larger districts, a lot of those in King County have them. Those that don't typically have a plan that they've tested out already and are moving into that 7-period or block schedule or whatever their option is that they've decided on for their district and are prepared to move forward in that. My petition is that Kent does not have a formal plan. That requires some negotiation. For example, Lake Washington went into this with hiring an outside agency consultant about national options for master scheduling and what that could look like for other states that had 24 credits requirements and what those high schools were doing and what were their academic outcomes. We've not really had the flexibility or bandwidth to do that this particular year, nor could I find any record that Ken had done anything like that in the past. I think it's one of those things that's a better to have it and not need it for us than to need it and not have it, because what will happen is that we will be in a place where we'll be held accountable for that work moving forward, and we will be one of few districts without that waiver. And as I've talked about before, when we talk about ready for graduation, the state has given lots of flexibility around assessment waivers, but not so much about credit attainment, and that is still where our struggle is with our students. And so as we think about what that looks like as we plan this waiver gives us 2 years to figure that out, to test that, to negotiate it with staff, because all of those things will be required as we move into that work.
Can I ask why we applied late? I remember seeing districts in 2014. Why did we apply?
I can't find any record of why or why not at the time, honestly. To me, it's just one of those where I think we made the initial assumption as a district that because we were at 23 and a half, it's not a large leap to an extra half of credit. And it's not in that realm. If certain things were in place. So if our course requirements were in the same areas, it wouldn't be a large leap. And if our students were maximizing those opportunities and our graduation rates were high enough to lead us to believe in terms of course attainment that we wouldn't have a problem making that shift. And so our graduation rates have held steady around 79 or 80%. Just slight fluctuations, 79.8, 79.6, 80.1. And that's a 4-year rate, so it's good, but knowing that we're moving into a realm where it's going to shift slightly, I'd like to have this and like to have the space to engage in the conversation over 2 years and test it out before we're held accountable to the public and to the state.
Is this something that if you just apply for it routinely, you're going to get it? It's not like, sorry, you don't get this.
No, it is one of those where you have to make the application. You have to say that what your plans are, and it's attached there to say that we're asking for the space to be able to do these things. Let's review the data. And we also have the unique opportunity of being in a space to learn from other districts who are implementing those things as well. So there are going to be those who are trying that. And so we can use that as a strategy as well. And so it's a formality that has to be done, but we have to ask your permission. We have to talk about the why, and then we have to make that plea and put it on record with the State Board of Education.
So what's the risk of not doing it? What if we don't do it? Meaning, what would it lead to?
So worst case scenario, we are one of few large districts. We're probably the largest district who doesn't have a waiver right now. And so that leaves, when they put the reports out of who's doing the new Core 24, it kind of leads to Kent to say, well, how's the largest of those who doesn't have a waiver doing? We are not going to be doing all of that well with that because we're hovering at the 70%, and there's going to be a shift in how our students are performing because there's some course requirement pieces that aren't in place that we haven't really put there in that structure. And so just bad media.
Does it mean we're going to graduate less kids if we have to move to this sooner? Less kids will be eligible for graduation, say that.
No. So it doesn't change anything. So if We didn't. It doesn't change any of that. Well, that's not true. I'm sorry. Yes, the state requirement is the state requirement. So there will be less students eligible because we won't meet the course. They won't meet some of the course requirements. It will require some flexibility still in kind of cross credit for different courses. And so there's going to be a slight dip. I'm not expecting major dips. I'm not expecting us to go from 79, 80% down to 55 or 60%. However, it will be a decline, and I think we should anticipate that, but we should also think about what those options could look like. It's not something, again, that we have to have. It's just at some point where we are going to have to come up with a strategy long-term for this, and this just gives us the space to do that without the scrutiny of the state.
So I guess my question is, when do we think we'll start seeing what the plan looks like? So we get the waiver for 2 years. Just kind of the plan and what's that going to look like and who's going to all be involved in formulating that?
So I think we start to lay out who are the voices and key stakeholders of that. And I think a large part of that are our secondary staff. And when I say secondary, I don't just mean high school, I mean middle school too, because that leads into that pathway and that conversation. And then possibly developing, along with some curriculum instruction pieces, so all of these are kind of these layers that are involved in this, to possibly lay out some plans then to present to a community group that's brought alongside. And then having that group kind of identify possibly 1 or 2 plans and proposals to bring forth to the board, but kind of working through that process, as well as investigating the cost of what does a 4x4 block schedule look like? What are the teaching strategies and professional development that are needed to do that work? If we don't do that, what does a 7-period day look like? What needs to be negotiated to get us there? We have to work with all of our labor partners to get to that place. And so I think there's lots of people that need to be there, so that work begins immediately in terms of pulling the stakeholders together. It could easily be next year this time before you got a plan.
Thank you.
So I'd like to call for a vote. All those in favor of resolution number 1543, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All right, motion passes. Up to 4.02, resolution number 1544, interfund loan between Capital Projects Fund and General Fund. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve resolution number 1544.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Are there any discussions, questions?
Two clarifying questions. We did this already, did an interfund loan before, but that loan has been paid back as of sometime in April, I recall.
Yep, that is correct, plus
Okay.
interest.
And then this would be to cover what we talked about before, some outflows to regular expenses we occur over the summer before we end the positive fund balance. We're talking about 15 million is what we're approving. Do you have an idea of how much we'd actually need to draw?
Yeah, so we actually talked about possibly making this 10 and taking even less than that. We just thought there's no sense in getting too intricate with it. So this basically allows us it replicates the loan that we have now. I would expect that we would have to access considerably less than $50 million. And secondly, I would expect this to be the last such loan that the Kent School District would have to take out, assuming a lot of thoughtful planning going forward. And it is likely that as we get into the first few months of next fiscal year, we wouldn't need it anymore. This is stipulated to be repaid the following July, just because that's a calendar year, but unlikely that it would be needed for that long.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess I have one more question. So just impact to projects that we had by making this loan, any impact?
There is none.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'd like to call for a vote. Oh, thank you, Mr. Rarick. All those in favor of resolution number 1544, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. And motion passes. Resolution number 1545, out of endorsement waivers. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve resolution number 1545.
I so move.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Are there any discussions or questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Right, motion passes. Up to the 2018 Capital Facilities plan, and we'd like to ask for a motion to approve the 2018 Capital Facilities Plan.
I so move.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second that.
Any discussions or questions? None? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion passes. 5.0 is our consent agenda, and I'd like to ask the board if you'd like to pull an agenda item for discussion.
5.11, please.
Okay, I also had 5.11, and I had 5.09. Anyone else? Okay, Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda minus 5.09 and 5.11.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All right. 5.09 is the Kent Meridian High Practice Field renovation bid acceptance and award of contract.
Thank you, Fred.
All right. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, there was an error in that bidding, and it's more than the competitor's bid, so I was just trying to understand what happened there.
No, there was an error when we developed the original amount for the bond issue. That was the error. There wasn't any errors with the bid itself.
So it was not additional to,
We're asking for $1.5 million from contingency to cover the cost of the project due to the error that was made when we were developing the original costs for the bond issue.
okay. All right. All right, thank you, Mr. Long. We will go to 5.11, our bid for custodial supplies. Director Hardy.
Two questions. One was, we put this out to bid, WCP Solutions. Is this the same provider that we've used in the past?
That's correct.
Okay. We opened it up, but only one responded. So were we expecting others to respond and they just didn't, or no one has the capability, or?
I'm going to have to get that information on how many didn't, that had the information but didn't respond.
Okay.
I know we've had problems in the past getting more than one bidder.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I have a question about that, too.
Okay.
KCDA offers a lot of supplies, and everything's gone out for bids already, and they picked the lowest bidder that meets their standards.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering if we've compared these items in their bid to the items that would be provided through KCDA.
I will talk with Sandy tomorrow, the supervisor of custodial. My indication would be the things that KCDA offers are different than what our standards are. But I'll check on that for you and get back to you next board meeting.
Okay.
Okay, I had the same question as Mr. Hardy, so thank you, Mr. Long. All right. So at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve 5.09 and 5.11.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All right, motion passes. 6.0, we are up to the Board of Directors informational, April 2018 financial statement. Are there any questions from the board? All right. We are then moving to 7.0 communications. No, students. Okay. Doesn't look like we have students, so I am going to start with David Bond, followed by Carrie Williams, Fred Munch, Shannon Jeffson Hernandez. Please come to the podium to my right. 3 minutes. Please state your name. Thank you. We do it.
Better for him to fix that than for me to use my teacher voice. We'll just bear with the IT community here.
So we start here. How about we start up front, and then we can move to the... All right?
Done. Timing's everything.
Sorry about that.
Right, go ahead, thank you.
My name is Dave Bone. I work at Daniel Elementary. I'm a first grade teacher. And what I'd like to express is a little bit of the human element that we see every day in the schools when teachers, educators feel underappreciated, marginalized, and maybe even in some cases disrespected. We have a teacher there, Fulbright scholar, advanced degree, 20 years in a Title I school. It takes a lot of grit to stand by. And that teacher has left in frustration to go to another district feeling underappreciated. The impact that we have at our school is a teacher that would go out, take training on their own, oftentimes paying on their own, coming back and helping all of us, whether it was teachers with a few years of experience or more often the case, brand new teachers. Now we have a hole. We have a hole that PD, simple PD, cannot cover. We have more and more teachers feeling disrespected, marginalized, and are setting up to leave the district. My concern is that we, as a district, are turning into a training organization for other districts. Okay? So I'm sure that the personnel divisions in Renton and in Auburn are rubbing their hands and are loving it. And the impact is great. And it goes beyond pretty PowerPoints with squiggly lines and budgets that are up and down and almost on target. And think about that a little bit. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carrie Williams. I've been a special education teacher in Kent for the past 3 years. This year I'm part of the special education team at Mill Creek. We had an amazing team. The kind of team that took one of our students down to Vancouver the day after school got out, unpaid, because this is where his needs can be met. And of course, his family was worried about sending him to a boarding school as an 8th grader. Thinking of this team is what had me convinced that I was going to stay in Kent at Mill Creek, even despite all the district craziness. Wait and see what Kent does with the McCleary money, and maybe things at the district level will start to improve. But then our amazing admin, one of the rare and wonderful administrators who have extensive special education experience, was laid off. This, combined with everything else that is going on and not knowing what to expect from salary negotiations, resulted in all but one of our team members leaving the district. I'll be teaching in Federal Way next year. Special education teachers are hard to find. Good ones are even tougher. You are left with one at Mill Creek, but you'll need to find 2 more. Last night, I read an email from the district to special education teachers saying that you need our help to let people know that Kent is a great place to work. This is one of the most recent of a long string of district emails I've received this year that ignores the issues going on in hopes that they will go away. It is what convinced me that these issues would not go away easily. With threats of a 3% raise when surrounding districts are getting upwards of 15%, this does not make Kent a great place to work for teachers. I still live in Kent, and I'm worried that my son will not have the benefit of the amazing teachers that I had growing up and that I have had the pleasure of working with. I care about my community, and good schools are what makes a community great. I beg you to reconsider the direction you're heading. Kent teachers deserve more, and if you don't give it to them, you will lose more great teachers. You need to show your teachers that they are appreciated instead of just saying it by using the McCleary money to begin to work towards paying them what they deserve.
Mr. Munch, Fred Munch. Oh.
Fred Munch.
Good evening. I'm not Professor Harold Hill, but I would say this trouble in River City today, and it doesn't rhyme with pool, it rhymes with budget. I will say that I've been doing a little research of my own about the McCleary Act and the things going on in funding, providing lots of funds. In fact, over $75 million to cover teacher salaries this year, along with $40 million subsequent 4 years out. $94 million in levy, $146 in levy number 2. Money was provided last year, 2017, to provide some money to address the McCleary decision. But what I never saw preceding the layoff of 127 teachers was the fact that this particular bill, about Senate Bill 6362, providing $75 million is boarded January 3rd, signed by Governor Inslee on March 27th. Early in March, though, the district took the initiative to lay off 127 teachers without advising the public like myself that this bill was in play. It could solve the problems and rescind needing layoffs. But instead, the district acted to lay these people off and then rescinded that activity. I thought that was a little bit of an egregious lack of breach of trust, because you could have said at one time that this may have to happen, but we hope to have this contingency happen. It was going to be probably successful. No one shared that contingency. It was very cold and hearted as it came across perception-wise. Had you at least said, you're going to have to be laid off, but we hope this never happens, and if it doesn't happen, we'll quickly rescind it. So you'd have that in your back pocket to say that there was still hope. There was never hope ever given. And additionally, there's never been any injection of these measures into your budgets, for example. I just went to this looking at your Excel spreadsheet, which I could not read, but it did not clarify exactly where, for my benefit, where this money is going to go to that we're giving to you from the taxpayers. We're talking about over hundreds of millions of dollars going into the school district over the next 6 years, let's say. It's a great deal of money, and I think we need to know how that plays and to set our priorities for what the district needs to do in terms of what we think we should pay our teachers, what we should do in our classrooms, and what have you. What you have up there is a very abstract perception. It's not really well, I can't understand it, the terminology. And I believe you need the buy-in of not just teachers, but the entire community. Right. You need to have the teacher. And in order to do that, I think I would suggest to the board that there needs to be a lot more transparency in the budget process itself. We need to be involved in that, participate from parent groups, business people, and so forth, to provide counsel what we want to do with our money. I think that we also need to have a better way to project these things so we can understand it. And so going forward in the future, in a positive vein, we understand exactly where we stand. We have a report card every quarter that says, here we are today, folks, on our budget. And we keep tracking it together as a community, not as a secular entity like the district is today. We need change. We need to change it now. Thank you very much.
Shannon Jepson Hernandez, still at Mill Creek and a bulldog. Investing in teachers equals investing in students. I would like to use the precepts of the 4 agreements, something that's popularly read around these parts. Always do your best, number 1. Who exactly should be doing their best? Students, teachers, or perhaps the board? When we agreed as teachers not to negotiate a raise due to KSD's financial troubles, we also agreed to be able to make up for that this year. We did our best with all of the financial mismanagement of our leadership. So now we're asking you to do your best and keep your word by properly negotiating our contracts. Is 3.1% appropriate? Is that your best? Or is it an offensive example of how little KSD teachers are valued by the KSD school board? Is this why we are near 300 staff leaving KSD as of Friday, according to the supplemental record? If our leadership was doing their best, would this be happening? Number 2, don't make assumptions. We didn't make assumptions when we were told there wasn't a budget crisis, only to have that comment flipped a week later to sharing there was a budget crisis. We didn't make assumptions when there was poor communication, non-compliance in updating policies, or the real story behind the levy. For all those, we did not make assumptions, and in fact, we supported you. However, the board made huge assumptions when they thought they could treat teachers like volunteer babysitters, forgetting we are the ones on the front lines every day, supporting the same students as we see in the graphs and the data reports. Don't make assumptions your staff is going to hang around for this continued abuse of employees. Number 3. Don't take anything personally, according to the 4 agreements. I have yet to meet a KSD teacher who's staying, who is not willing to strike this fall. After a year of repeated poor decisions by the board, not listening to the community, petition, teachers' unions, and multiple stakeholders all requesting the termination of our superintendent's contract. Please don't take anything personally when we rise up with our community to make a change for our kids come September. And number 4. Be impeccable with your word. We have come together for months now. We have asked questions, we have begged, we have cried, we have gasped and wondered, all in an attempt to protect the education of the children in Kent. We read the same personnel reports. We use addition and subtraction just like our HR department does. So why can the board not see in plain sight what we see? We the teachers, we the parents, we the community, we are united. Watch what happens when I say the word united. United! You said if we supported the budget crisis, it would be rectified with this year's negotiation. So how are you being impeccable with your word? Please do your job, keep your word, and negotiate our contract the way you promised.
Just a quick reminder, there's only 3 minutes, so we want to keep the outbursts and the comments to a minimum so the person can get the full time, please. Thank you.
Right. We do have 2 students we'd like to speak right now, and that is Yeledson, I apologize if I mispronounce, Apollon, and Antonia Martin, please.
Hi, my name is Yeledson, Apollon. Just want to discuss about you guys, shorten the time of iGrad from like 8 to 3, because trying to make iGrad into like a normal school, because iGrad is not a normal school. iGrad is an alternative school where people go who didn't finish their high school, and they come here. Guys who are skipping school, they come here. And if you can't have the opportunity, to finish your high school, then I can't be like one of you guys right here. I can't be Dr. Watts. I can't be a doctor if I don't graduate. I can't be a board member if I can't graduate. Success is a big thing. I'm trying to be successful as quick as I can, but not everybody can be successful, but we try to be successful. And if you have the opportunity to allow everybody to be successful, you can, and that's what I think we should do. Right now, there's people, probably kids, not going to busy right now. People got work, they got families, they got siblings they got to take care of. If iGrad is closed at 3:05, what can I do? If I'm working like a 9-to-5 job and iGrad is closed at 3, I can't go to school and get my education that I need. So, thank you.
Mr. Ron DeLay, Zach Stockdale, followed by Laura Taylor and Christy Padilla.
Hi, I'm the one who introduced myself about a month ago as a former superintendent, a former director of student services, special education, alternative programs, and so on. I did complaint investigations for special education for the state of Alaska for 12 years. Having shared that and reintroducing that, last time I was here, the discussion was that yes, iGrad will continue for the foreseeable future and so on. And between that time and now, there's been somebody's memo from central office circulating among the internet and so on, saying that actually the plan is not that. The plan is supposed to be 1 more year, current location, then set up satellites at each school, and then farm out to a third party after the 2nd or 3rd year. Now, whether that's true or not, it came from evidently a memo that somebody got copies of. So please decide, there are lots of rumors, and we all know this in every school system, but be careful of these kinds of things because you're dashing the hopes of a whole lot of people. So please clarify that. Also, by the way, if you put everything back to satellites at each of the schools, I'll be honest with you, you don't know what you're doing. I've run a lot of these programs, and I'm not interested in going back and running more, but I will tell you that that is folly. If you want to talk to me privately on that, I'll be more than happy to talk to you certainly about a current example, Clover Park. If you're going to turn iGrad into Clover Park, look how successful that has been and the problems they're having with the discipline that you just had an example of earlier tonight. Second area, second area has to do with the tech bill that I actually was helpful, as was my family, in supporting. It wasn't 5 years ago, thinking that it was going to serve all kids. Well, it turns out it didn't serve iGrad at all, despite last time when I said, we're feeling like the poor stepchild, and a couple of you said, oh, no, we support iGrad. I mean, we really do. Well, you do verbally, you just don't in terms of practice so much. And we're not asking for the one-on-one computers that we've never gotten, but it would be nice to have good new computers, not the retreads. They're all retreads, by the way. If you go to boot up one of the computers that the kids deal with, I got 2 of my chapters of my memoirs done before it booted up. So anyway, the point is they're very, very slow. They're retreads. They're not new computers. Give in, folks. Give them at least 60 computers that are new, that are good, that are workable, that at least have current software on them. The kids deserve that, and it's your responsibility to treat them like the rest of the kids in the district. Okay.
Thank you. That's it. Your time is up, sir. Your time is up, sir.
Okay.
It's been 3 minutes.
I'm going to say one more thing. You hold on. Okay. And
Sir, with all due respect, it's been 3 minutes.
If your entire special education department has been gutted, I'm getting calls from across the nation, my friends in special education, lawyers and so on, and I'm concerned that you're going to be very ripe for litigation, not an OCR complaints. Yep. Anyway, that's enough. Now you go.
Hi, you know me, I'm Zach Stockdale, Kent Meridian. So many things I want to say, but I come down to, I almost quit today. I almost took my 12 years of experience of teaching science in a high-need school, my master's degree, my national board endorsement, and said, I'm done with Kent. Today I heard that my district values fund balances over making sure that they are fairly compensating their teachers who last year heard that there was no money and took no raise besides the pass-through from the state, while those around us went up. I didn't, because I'd be having to do that at the last moment, and I would refuse to do that to my family the last moment, but it was pretty damn close. And my wife was actually a little disappointed. She's been wanting me to leave for a while because of what I have to say, but I love this place. I love my kids. I love my school. I don't want to leave, but you're not leaving us a lot of choices. Somehow it seems the board might think that having a positive fund balance is going to restore the faith of this community in you. And that's not true. No. The people here in this room, the teachers, they are what's going to lead the community to trust you again. And right now, we don't trust you. Okay? Either pay us what we're worth and what the state gave you for salary, and you can welcome to call up the legislators in the area, and they'll tell you that money's for salary, not for filling holes. Yeah. Or you can watch the community's response when they see their teachers walking up and down the streets with signs. Thank you.
Is Laura Taylor here? Sorry. And then Christy. There you go.
Hello, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Laura Taylor, and I'm going into my 12th year of teaching in the Kent School District. I have spent my entire teaching career so far in the Kent School District, and I'm also a proud member of the Kent community. I have lived in Kent for the past 8 years and love the fact that I teach in the community that I live in. My daughter will be in 2nd grade in the fall in the Kent School District, and my son will be in kindergarten in the fall in the Kent School District. When I got the news this morning that the Kent School District was only willing to give teachers a 3.1% raise, I was sick to my stomach. I am now so fearful for my own children's education in the Kent School District, along with the thousands of other students in the Kent School District. With only a 3.1% pay increase, we are going to lose so many great quality teachers who are going to leave our district to go to surrounding districts who have already settled on a 15%, 18%, and even as high as a 23% raise. If our mission statement is to successfully prepare all students for their futures, how are we expected to do that without good quality teachers? My children deserve better than this. The 25,000 students in the Kent School District deserve better than this, and the teachers in the Kent School District deserve a fair, livable wage. Thank you.
Christy Padilla, followed by Elaine Posey, followed by Teresa Palladino, and Jamie Singletary.
Distinguished board members, Dr. Watts, Ms. Halley, I'm coming to you today to make a request. But before I do that, I would like to communicate my rationale for such request. Without going into much details on negotiations today, you can probably tell by our presence here that they went extremely poorly. Many of us on the KEA bargaining team naively believed that the district would come to the table today with a proposal that would at least show some resemblance of a negotiable or a place to start, with the hopes that we could start rebuilding and healing as a school community. Our teachers, our students, our community deserve a summer where we can just relax and know that as a district we are moving forward. However, that didn't happen. Judging by today's events, the district has communicated that we have not yet hit rock bottom. I asked the question today, when do you believe that the leadership in this district will begin to rebuild and make KSD a first-rate school district again. I was accused by the lead negotiator as well as other members on the KSD team that I was asking a rhetorical question. I assure you it was not a rhetorical question. I just want to know. Last year you told us 1 year to rebuild. Do you need 2 years to rebuild, 3 years to rebuild, 5 to 8 years to rebuild? My request is just give us a timeline. You are really good at providing timelines of when this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Can you provide us a timeline when you believe that you can put systems in place where we can begin to rebuild, heal as a community, and make KSD a first-rate school district again? Because you've heard from our teachers, you get this once every 2 weeks. I hear from them every day, the hurt, the pain that they are feeling, and it is wearing on us all. It is wearing on us. I don't know how much more this district can take. I really don't. So please, can we put something in place? Can we give somebody some hope? Because right now, the district has communicated nothing but hopelessness at this point. Thank you.
Looks good out there. You guys look amazing. My name is Elaine Posey. I am a former KSD employee. I have retired as of last Thursday. I'm here because I care. I'm here because I still have a dog in this fight. I've taught for 37 years, and I've had roughly 1,000 kids. I want those kids, their kids, and kids' kids to have a quality education in the Kent School District. This is unfinished business. That's why I'm here. I'm here because I care and I love my students. I love our students. I love our parents, our community members, and all the colleagues that serve in every capacity to support our schools. I'm here because I miss the KSD that once was. I started KSD in the mid-'80s, and after teaching in 2 different districts in 2 different states, I wanted to work for Kent School District. Like I repeat, it was the district to work for. Everybody wanted to work here. It has the usual bumps, and it did along the way, but I was still proud to say I worked at the KSD. Fast forward to 2018. We've seen this district decline in so many ways in such a short period of time. It is through no fault of the economy. It is through human error, egregious fiscal irresponsibility. Just as heinous is the lack of effort to remedy this situation in a reasonable, sensible, and timely manner. There's no evidence of anybody taking ownership of irresponsible leadership and poor decision-making. Instead, we encounter ears that refuse to listen, eyes that refuse to see, and integrity that is hard to find with those who have the power to attempt to make things right. I would like to give credit, though, to some of you board members who actually listened to many of us, our concerns. And for that, I thank you. We felt listened to. Regarding the district, we see the lack of respect and consideration shown to all stakeholders, kids, parents, community, educators. We see and feel the continued hurt and alienation. KSD lacks heart and the desire to even look at the specific needs and demands of all who seek a quality education and those who work so hard to deliver on those basic needs. Denial is not the answer to this mass exodus. We're talking almost 300 people. That's twice the amount that usually leave. We have openings that will just make your head spin. How can we start the year out right? And I say we because I'm still here, even though I feel, I'm retired, but I can't quit this. This is the perfect time and opportunity to do the right thing for all stakeholders. I hope you realize how fortunate you are to have this opportunity to start the healing by doing what is right. Embrace this opportunity. Care about our kids, our parents, our community members, our educators. Bring back some semblance of what KSD once was. Put the funding where it belongs. Treat your people with respect and consideration. This is a great way to attract and retain our best. It is a good way to start.
Teresa Palladino, followed by Jamie Singletary, Leslie Hamada, Alex Mirich. Sorry.
Good evening, Dr. Watts and KSD board members. My name is Teresa Palladino. I'm a teacher at East Hill who has been teaching for 29 years. I have my BA, MA, ELL endorsement, and National Board certification. I am also a former Kent parent of 3 grown children. I do not know where to begin with you guys. I am extremely disappointed in all of you. The McCleary decision gave Kent School District $74 million for salary increases for teachers and classified staff at schools. State Senator Joe Fain and State Representative Pat Sullivan both said the $74 million is only for teacher and school classified salary increases. It is not your bailout money, nor is it your salaries. Our districts around us, our other districts around us are offering 15.5%, 18%, 21%, and even 25% salary increases to their teachers. Your offer of 3.1% is a disgrace. I've been here for 22 years in this district, and it used to be a great district. It no longer is. Your offer truly shows you do not respect us as teachers here in Kent. Kent will be a revolving door for teachers if you do not have competitive salaries for your teachers. Who would want to stay teaching in Kent when you can go 5 to 10 miles down the road and make $10,000 to $20,000 more? I know many teachers who will leave Kent if you can continue to disregard us. You have the opportunity to fix it so that teachers want to stay in Kent. I am also disappointed in you saying that Kent is equitable. It's not. This past school year at East Hill, I had 26 second grade students, 6 of them which were children of trauma. And my teammates had the same. 26 students at East Hill or any high impact school is not the same as a non-high impact schools. And I don't know if you guys get it or not. You should come sometime. We have children banging on the walls, screaming and shouting in our classrooms that they don't have temper tantrums, and they have to be removed because of the trauma they are in. Students at our impact schools deserve equity so that they can be just as successful as their peers at the non-high impact schools, and I've taught it both. And 26 students at East Hill is not the same as 26 students at a non-impact school. You should look at the high impact schools and at least try to keep those class sizes low for our students. I am also disappointed in whoever signed off with OSPI regarding the free and reduced lunches for students at the high impact schools. East Hill is 90% free and reduced, with all students receiving free breakfast and lunch. East Hill is one of the most highly impacted schools in our district, yet someone at the admin level signed that East Hill is 62% free and reduced. This also happened at other high impact schools in Kent. This error means that our students will receive less state funding, and that those of us that are national board teachers, such as myself, will not be getting the extra $5,000 that we get for teaching at a high impact school in July. This is unacceptable. Unacceptable. I depend on that money and my husband to help pay for my daughter's student loans. And now, money that I'm dependent on because of the school I teach at, I've been told I don't get it. That is unacceptable for whoever did that, and they need to be held accountable.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Palladino.
Thank you.
No, one last thing. Please let me say, a handshake is nice, but it will not keep highly qualified teachers here in Kent, nor will a handshake pay my mortgage or put food on my table. KSD teachers stand united. Investing in teachers equals investing in our students, and by golly, you better do it, because you're going to lose a lot of high-quality teachers in our district. And I know for a fact that you are within the district, they are hiring teachers right now on emergency certificates to be in the classroom for a full year next year. Think about that when you quality teachers leave.
several others who would like to speak, so please try to keep it to 3 minutes if you could. Jamie Singletary, please.
Yes, my name is Jamie Singletary, and I'm a nationally certified speech-language pathologist working in Kent School District. I began my career in Kent, and then I worked in Sumner School District and came back to Kent probably about 5 years ago because it offered a strong compensation package, good caseload language, and I lived closer. So I want to address the board about staffing and compensation in Kent School District. While it's normal for a district to have some attrition, the rate at which so many employees, certificated and administrative, are leaving Kent School District cannot be explained away as normal. Staff have and are continuing to jump off the sinking ship the school district has become. In my opinion, this rate of attrition speaks to a distrust of the leadership in Kent School District. It pains me to say that. I have found Kent to be a great place to work for many years, and currently it does not feel that way. Trust was broken when the district didn't balance their budget. That led to teachers not getting compensation last year. Trust was broken when the district planned to implement a RIF, which was later rescinded, after which the community was promised that a RIF would not occur if the levy passed. This lack of trust has left the district severely understaffed. In administration, such as inclusive education, in which every administrator has left, classroom teachers, and ESA staff. So for those of you that don't know, ESA is Educational Staff Associate, SLPs, school psychs, PT, OTs. The SLP team is short over 10 certificated staff for next school year, and there are no applicants as of the end of last week. Our group worked really hard this year to recruit. We had several highly qualified people applying. They came and visited. They wanted to work in Kent, and then Kent initiated the hiring freeze. And that, along with the negative publicity in Kent, caused them to withdraw their applications. We are agencies that have helped staff our team will not even return the district's calls. So we're looking at our team and the team of school psychologists next year being significantly understaffed with no easy way to resolve. Today, IE staff, and I think this was mentioned earlier, received an email asking us to be star recruiters. I have to say our team was star recruiters, and it's really difficult to let other people know that Kent School District is a great place to work when the district isn't willing to adequately compensate us. So I stand united with KEA bargaining team, and it's my sincere hope that the district stand united with the Kent School District staff and students. Thank you.
Good evening, Board President, Board, Dr. Watts, Karen. My name is Leslie Hamada. I've been actively involved in this community for over 26 years and worked on most of the levies and capital bonds for this school district. In the last few months, I've been going to a lot of community meetings and talking with a lot of people in the community, trying to ascertain what exactly is going on with the school district. And one thing that I have taken away as a taxpayer, as a non-employee of the school district, is that the community at large really wants and needs healing. And I am in the effect that healing comes in many ways, through positive communication, positive thoughts, but let's get down to the nitty-gritty. We have a contract on the line, And I've tried my very best to find out some specifics. It's kind of difficult to see where you're at financially and totally, because I think whatever we do, it has to be sustainable, it has to be realistic, but it also has to be something that shows some merit for what's happening. And I strongly urge you as a community member, as a person who's urged my very conservative husband to vote for all these levies that have come across the board, and that hasn't been very easy. He's a tough nut to crack. And I would like to see you, whatever the sustainable, highest amount that you can put into your budget, sustain with other contracts, I would like to see you do that and negotiate with a contract that shows the appreciation of your staff. I don't know what that figure is. I know you probably know what that figure is, but I encourage you as a community to listen to your community. Your community has to heal. And budgets can be done. I've managed lots of budgets, big budgets, and I know it can be done over time. And I think that's where we need to put our direction. Thank you very much for your time.
President Venkatesalam, members of the board, Dr. Watts. First, I'd like to thank you all for the work you do in a difficult job. I'd like to thank the educators in this room for the work they do in very difficult jobs. I've been a guest teacher in 30 Kent School District buildings, most of them on multiple occasions over the last 3 years. Prior to that time, I had been a mental health professional for 30 years, also a school social worker. My specialty is behavioral health. I know you board members must get reams of reports and statistics in preparation for these meetings. If you've read them all, congratulations. This evening, I would like to bring you a report from the front lines. There's a pervasive, deteriorating trend in our classrooms that is sabotaging the education of virtually every student. This trend also profoundly interferes with preparing students for their futures. I'm talking about constant cell phone use. I can imagine the well-meaning deliberations that preceded adoption of the policy prohibiting confiscation of cell phones. Some parents want to be assured of always being able to reach their child. If hundreds of phones are confiscated, someone will complain of a device being damaged or lost. A wise person has said, there are no solutions, only trade-offs. I submit that in this case, the trade-off has resulted in a catastrophically bad bargain. You may have spent several $100s replacing cell phones. Compare that to laptop replacements. We have students throwing laptops out of bus windows. Okay? The cell phones are a drop in the bucket. I know that our parents get billed. How many of those bills get paid? As I said, I have taught in 30 buildings over 3 years. This has given me a unique perspective. I have taught in the same schools before and after implementation of this policy, and it has gotten worse afterwards, by far. I have also alternated between teaching in schools that follow the policy to the letter and those that didn't get the memo. In schools ignoring the policy, I experienced fewer classroom management problems, more student engagement, and better focus. This is not just my own impressions. A Kent State University study of 500 undergraduates found a negative relationship between frequent cell phone use and grades, as well as lower life satisfaction, increased anxiety, and poor physical health. What the majority of schools are now doing is ineffective. Kids don't care how many warnings they get. There's a very large cohort of students that don't care if they get lunch detention and don't care if their parents are notified. What they do care about is not having their phones taken away. It takes courage to admit you have made a mistake. The stakes are very high. I implore you to reverse this disastrous policy and join the vast majority of schools nationwide that allow or encourage teachers to confiscate cell phones that are used during class. In so doing, you will salvage the future of our children. Thank you.
To Fem Seicho Ross, I apologize for mispronouncing, Rochelle DeLaurentie, Karen Gust, Carolyn Kelly, and Karen Chloe.
Thank you, board members, Dr. Watts, community members, teachers, friends, for allowing me this opportunity to address my concerns this evening. I've been teaching in the Kent School District since 2001. I began as a classroom teacher at Martin Sortune Elementary. After 13 years, I moved into the ELL teacher position in my building. I worked with second graders, third graders, K through 6, all across the board, diverse learners of varying levels. And I've seen this district go through many ups and downs over the years. And like many KSD employees, I chose to stay and have my family rooted in this community. I've made a long-term commitment to this community. I believe in the children, I believe in the teachers, I believe in the students, the faculty, the colleagues I work with. And because I have children who also attend school where I teach, I even have a bigger stake in this situation too. It's not just for my children, but for the diverse students that I work with who don't have a voice, who need someone to advocate for them. And I'm very disappointed and angry with the news that I saw in my email about the way that teachers are not being valued through their bargaining. And in seeing that, I felt like I really need to stay up here and say something because I normally don't like to get up in front of people. It's not always my comfort. I want to talk about two of the district's primary goals, which are in the blueprint plan. And the third one says to create effective organizational systems that reinforce equity and excellence. The fourth is to recruit, hire, develop, and retain a diverse and premier workforce. This is a premier workforce. These are the teachers and educators, support staff that work hard because they care. And we need to see the value of our work in the bargaining that our union is doing with KSD and the board. When I see and the rest of my colleagues see that we are only offered a mere 3.1% increase in salary in comparison to our neighboring districts who are, as mentioned before, being offered 15, 17 on up to maybe 20% or more. We need to feel respected in the hard work that we do with the children in our community. So, board members, Dr. Watts, I strongly implore you to consider how this salary is going to impact our students, teachers, family, and our community. As a parent and teacher, I want to create an effective and, excuse me as my paper is stuck together, to create an effective organization that reinforces equity and excellence that starts with treating educators with equity and pay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Investing
Your time
in
is up.
teachers is
Thank you.
investing in children.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rochelle DeLaurentie, sorry, nervous, and I never stand up and speak, but I feel this is very important. In Kent School District, we need highly qualified people to teach the variety of students we have living in our borders. I live here. My kids have only gone to Kent School District schools. This was my 26th year of teaching, only in the Kent School District. When I came here, award-winning was the mantra, and I was proud. I came here to teach special education for the Kent School District. I have taught kindergarten through 8th grade in both general education and special education. I've paid for my master's degree and to be endorsed in K-8 elementary, middle school and high school history, social studies, and English, as well as K-12 special education. And I have extensive ELL and AVID training. This last year, I taught students with IEPs, 30 of them in my classes, and 10 who are still enrolled in ELL. I have struggled every day, and I am highly qualified. Over the years, our students and families have become more needy in a variety of ways. At our middle schools, we have had drugs, gangs, alcohol, sex, profanity, and these are in our classes. I've been told to F off more this year than I have I've never been, and it's been multiple times this year. Students reading at the 3.0 level are in the same class as the 8th grade level kids. And those same students are with the kids, or they are the kids, who refuse to sit, who are defiant, who do not follow directions, who do not try to do assignments, who disrupt learning, who use profanity at the teacher. If highly qualified teachers such as myself can be employed in other districts for more money and feel more respected and cared for by their leaders, who will be working in Kent? We've already lost so many qualified staff. If our students require qualified teachers and only those who cannot attain a position elsewhere for being paid more are hired, what kind of district will Kent be? Not the award-winning kind that I was hired on to be in, I assure you. Thank you.
Karen Gust, followed by Carolyn Kelly and Karen Cloy.
Hello, my name is Karen Gust, and I've been teaching in this district for 24 years. I am a special ed teacher. I started out at Matson and went to Kent Ridge, went to Ridgewood, went to Covington, went to now at Sue's Creek. Love it there. This is an awesome, excellent school district. It's been a very good school district for a really long time. And I am so proud to be a teacher here. I also have had the opportunity to go to the community sessions that the board has run, and as well as meeting with Dr. Watts at the Pizza and Politics with the KEA. So having said that, I still think that you guys don't seem to be listening to what we are saying. I looked at the 3.1% today and I thought, well, that shows me that they just don't really care. They don't care about us. And they're thinking that, maybe they're thinking, who knows, maybe there's a negotiation strategy here that, well, we'll offer them 3, and then when we really give them 15 or 12 or whatever it is you're going to give us, we'll be so overjoyed and happy, and, we'll appreciate you. How dare you assume and patronize us in this way? I have worked very hard to get here. I work with all of my students every day to make sure that their needs are getting met. And I also have to work with a district that is incredibly bureaucratic, and there's a lot of paperwork just to get more help for a kid. That shouldn't be. It shouldn't be this way in this district now. And, Dr. Watts, I asked him at the last meeting, why do you deserve to be here? And I'm asking you, the board, to ask yourselves, why does he deserve to be here? When we look at the budget issues, when we look at the mass exodus of teachers, why? And can't we do better for us? Can't we do better for this district? Yes. That's what I want to know.
Good evening. My name is Caroline Kelly, and I'd like to tell you that today I did something I had no intention of doing. I went online and started looking for another job. I have had 10 years of experience. I'm an endorsed librarian, and I didn't plan on leaving this district. I love my school. I currently work at Carriage Crest Elementary School. Historically, Carriage Crest had been one of the schools teachers stay out for their entire career. And yet this year, we are hiring 9 teachers and looking at hiring at least 3 emergency certificated teachers. Now that doesn't mean that these are teachers that are out of endorsement. That means they have no teacher training.
They have college degrees. But literally, there was no applicants. We have 2 special ed openings. The only person who came in for an interview had never written an IEP. She's not even finished with school yet. Now, not to disrespect those teachers who are new, but my only thought when I look at what's going on is that the reason you keep acting this way and disrespecting our teachers this way is so you can have teachers who don't know better. So that the teachers who have been here and know what a great place KSD could be, has been, are gone. We've seen you clear out special ed by either forcing them out or them leaving because you're doing things that are unethical and frankly probably illegal. If you go onto KSD's, or if you go to Wikipedia, which feel whatever you mean about that, I happen to find myself there looking at the Kent School District page in which it lists all the court cases we've lost to special ed parents. That's money we don't have and money that is taken away from our students. When I got the email about the 3.1%, I asked myself, how much is 3.1%? What would that cost our district? I took a look and I took the numbers off the budget presentation from today. According to this budget year, we pay $156 million for certificated staff and $53 million for classified staff. A 3.1 increase would cost the district only $6.5 million. They're getting 74. What are their plans for the other $68.5 million?
My name is Karen Cloy, and I am a parent of children in the school district. I was hopefully optimistic that you guys would come back with a decent wage for these guys. I didn't expect this tonight. I've been to all the meetings the last 6 months now when everything came down. It's pretty disheartening to look at all these faces in here. What teachers are you going to have left in my schools for my children?
That's right.
How long's the strike going to be? Because you know what? 1 day, 2 days. I'm thinking months, which is totally going to affect my kids and all the 28,000 kids that are in the school district. I was hopefully optimistic. I'm a taxpayer. You've got the money. Stop the bleeding and show these people what they're worth. And don't come back with these little amounts that don't mean nothing. What is it, like $20 per teacher per year? 3.1%. I was hopefully optimistic, but right now I'm pretty disappointed in administration of this district.
That concludes our public communication portion from the audience, communication from the audience. Now we're up to the legislative update with Ross Hardy, please.
Well, my update's not very interesting, literally because there are no updates. But I will make a point that there's not a lot of updates because a lot of state legislatures have actually kicked off the re-election campaigns. It doesn't relate specifically to our school district, but as people run, as new people run, as current people run, and you want a better voice heard to support education at the district level, at the state level, then you will have that opportunity soon, both in the primary vote and then the regular election vote. So that is the only update I have from the legislation side.
All right. Thank you, Director Hardy. Next up, Superintendent's report. Dr. Watts.
Thank you. Yes, President Vengadaslam, members of the board, Ms. Halley, community, staff, and friends, I first of all want to thank our board. We did recognize our board officers. I want to thank you for your service as we bring conclusion to 2017-18 and prepare for 2018-19. I also want to take a moment to thank quite a few people, many of whom are in this room. That includes and really speaks to the summative assessment. We talked about assessment this evening. And summative assessment for our success as an organization is symbolized by graduation. Most recently, I had the opportunity to shake the hands of about 1,600 students and make sure that those students did not fall from the steps, and success showed up in that way. More importantly, success showed up because of our talented teaching staff, administrative staff, our committed students and parents and families. I also want to take the opportunity to thank our support staff, many of whom are in this room, that without their support, guidance, expertise, the ceremony would not have occurred as seamlessly as it did to our safety services, in relationship with our city of Kent, certainly to our chief school operations, academic support officer and staff, to our organizational effectiveness staff, to our human resources staff, and to our communications team, without whom we would not have been able to share this remarkable event with others who did not have the opportunity to attend. That said, it doesn't happen by accident, and it's just the beginning of our measurement of our success. And while there is a great deal of challenge and controversy occurring right now in our district, I am not naive to the fact that we have work to do. I'm also confident that based on what occurred most recently in terms of our graduation, will symbolize what can happen when we as a team, when we as a community come together to solve a solvable challenge, and that is just one example. There is one more item I'd like to share, and that is when you think about what's going on in our community, and I'm thinking about our larger community. As we hear what happens daily on the news, or what we see happening in our classrooms during school, or in our cafeterias, or in our living rooms, or in the boardroom, what I've heard and what I believe is that this is true, that the true measure of standard of care, compassion, and concern of a community is typically measured in this way, by how a community treats its children. And one example of many where we are treating our children and our families in a way that deserves attention is our nutrition services department. And the fact that while school in this part of the world lasts for 180 days typically, we know that meeting our families' basic needs extends well beyond 180 days, and I'm thankful that we have an organization that supports our families and our students when they need a meal, and we are serving lunch. And congratulations and kudos to our KSD Nutrition Services for being willing and able to serve free lunch to our children and families under 18 in certain areas within the community. For those who aren't aware, or families that you may know of who may be in need, please make sure you let them know that information can be gained on our website. But I'm thankful to those who are supporting our work. I look forward to our continuous improvement efforts, and that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Watts. Right. Yeah. Director Dan.
Good evening, and as always, I want to start by sharing my appreciation for teachers and support staff that have worked all year with our amazing students, and I know that without you, we would not be celebrating the successes that we do, so you are appreciated, and thank you very much, and I hope that you all have a wonderful, hopefully restful and peaceful summer. That's my wish for you. I want to say that I was very excited. The highlight of my last few weeks was celebrating the graduations of our students. One of those were mine, and it was a very pleasure for me to be able to hand him his diploma, along with some of the other students that I had the pleasure of getting to know personally and working with. Some of the students I mentor in a high school and other students, and it was very exciting for me. I can't help, though, but think about Dr. Watts mentioned the 1,600 kids, the 400 plus kids that did not make it with our 80% or less graduation rate. That always plagues me around graduation time because I wonder about them. I wonder what they're going to do. I wonder what's next. I wonder where they'll end up, how they're feeling seeing their peers walk across a stage that they're not able to walk across. And that tends to be the focus of why I sit here and what I do. And I would believe that that's the focus of why you sit there and what you do. So I would just encourage us to continue to keep that in mind. And you know, I'm constantly reminded of why we're here and where we need to do work and what can I do to do better. So I really, again, appreciate you. And I know that we are doing some amazing things, but we also have some work to do. And that work can only be accomplished with us working together. So again, thank you. You're appreciated. And I just look forward to, you know, beginning another wonderful school year with you next year. Thank you.
Most of my reports are about graduation. My third-year mentee graduated from KPA 3 years ago, and she just graduated from Highline College, and I was able to go see her graduate. My high school student opted to leave KPA in January to attend the Washington Youth Academy to recoup credits that she had made bad choices in the past. She made it all the way through. It's a quasi-military academy. She started summer school yesterday at Kent Meridian, and she's on her way. She'll be back at KPA in the fall, hopefully to graduate by January. Attended 3 other graduations. I went to the Washington Youth Academy graduation on that Saturday morning and then came back to do Kentwood and Kent Meridian. Always fun to watch the kids and see the excitement in their faces and their eyes and watch them walk up and down the steps with those crazy shoes. I was invited to Jolene Wallace's second grade class at Neely O'Brien, and I visited with her for a couple hours and watched her kids, and it was the day of the fun run. I was there after the fun run, and they were preparing for a field trip the next day, so they were pretty excited, but I was just really impressed with her classroom management. I know she's got some tough students in there, but she used a lot of the same systems that I used to use when I was teaching, and I thought that was really good. And she had the kids working in pairs, working on different assignments. It was just really fun. And then I really enjoyed just talking with her and hearing about what their challenges are at Neely O'Brien. That's my report.
All right. Well, I'm going to build off my report from last time, which is, you know, graduations are fun and all. I was at the iGrad, or Green River graduation. We were supporting our iGrad students, Kent Phoenix Academy. But I wanted to usually report on the things that we do and see and observe. And I said we need to do our job, and our job is budget and evaluation. And so I wanted to share some things I observed during that process. I mean, we asked the tough questions of the district and didn't accept any easy answers. We challenged the way we budgeted in the past. We admitted to their past mistakes, either by us or not, in budgeting or goal setting. We did include community input into questions regarding performance. We did keep community concerns at the forefront of our discussion. We did echo areas of growth that have been called out right over there at that podium by community members. we did challenge facts, data, and evidence that have been presented to us. We have been investigating discrepancies in data. This is what I've observed. We've had healthy disagreement, even arguments, I would call it, but we respected each other's perspectives, and we challenged the status quo, which is one of the reasons I'm here. And we did acknowledge that we have to do a better job as a board, and these all just weren't me, and so I wanted to say that a lot of this work actually has been done. You may not see a lot of it, either didn't show up at the work sessions, the budget work sessions, or of course you could not come to the executive session, and you can believe me or not, that's fine. But I think the board has done more to step up to do its job than perhaps believed in the past, and I think we are committed to doing that going forward. And that's my report of what's been going on the last couple weeks.
So I had the opportunity to go and sit in on the equity committee that happened a few weeks ago and see the forming of that team as they worked on their norms and going forward. And I'm excited to see what that committee will actually be able to produce and do. I also had the opportunity to attend 4 of the graduations this year, and it's always a highlight of my year is to see those students walk across the stage and the excitement and the opportunities that they have. And I know 2 things on that. One, I'd like to thank all those who helped make the graduations possible. They went very smoothly this year. Didn't see a whole lot of glitches, so I did appreciate all the extra work on that, as well as all the people that go into and behind the scenes and working with our students every day to make sure that our students are prepared for graduation. It doesn't start in high school, it starts at elementary, and so I do appreciate all of those who help our students every day in what they do, because it does take a community, it takes all of us to help our students be successful. So I do thank you. It's been said, we've got work to do, and we're here to make sure that that work gets done. So thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Okay, I wanted to first also attended the KSD Equity Committee and thank all those who are planning and staffing that and committed to that, we are committed to our race and equity policy, and Dr. Decker especially. Also wanted to mention I was at Tom Ogg's retirement party and just really delighted to see the support that he has and the new our new Tom Ogg coming on board from Seattle. Really great. It seems like the team really respects her and was really happy to be there. And I, too, went to all of the graduations, with the exception of Kent Mountain View Academy because of the iGrad celebration. And I, too, thank staff members who were there organizing and making sure everything went smoothly. Every year, it's one of my favorite days of the year. And I also wanted to thank our team for working on finance and HR team working on our non-representative administrators compensation study and salary schedule. It's been talked about for years, and I'm really happy to see it come to fruition. Thank you so much for that. We've been waiting many years for that. And let's see, I want to mention, yes, as Ross mentioned, we had our Dr. Watts evaluation. Dr. Watts presented. There's been some questions about dates, and Dr. Watts presented his evaluation on June 21st. We as a board met on June 26th to evaluate, and June 27th today to finalize the evaluation. We've completed the evaluation for Dr. Watts, and we're working on the changes to his contract. Details will be shared in an upcoming board meeting. With that, tomorrow evening, we are moving forward. As you may recall, we had a resolution put forward on developing a finance audit committee. And the resolution said our second meeting will happen in June. And so tomorrow night, we are having that meeting here. And it will be facilitated by Tim Garshow from WASDA. And he is a former superintendent, has a lot of familiarity with school finance. So he'll walk us through on the formation of that committee, and you're welcome to join us. And with that, I think we're done. And I would like to wish you all a happy summer and look forward to seeing you all next coming school year. Thank you very much for joining us.